Hi, this is Mending Mahogany. Thanks for tuning into my channel. I hope you are having a good evening. It is Friday, and if you don't work on the weekends, we have made it through another work week. Hallelujah. So it is October, and everybody knows, or if you don't know, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And hence the color pink. But I'm sure we know women who have fit into both categories. It could be you, it could be me, it could be a loved one, it could be a friend, it could be a coworker, it could be a neighbor. But trust and believe, a woman that you know has fit into domestic violence and breast cancer, and some of them even both. So I wanted to be authentic to my channel and authentic to who I am. The header in my YouTube says Mending Mahogany, healing conversations of the heart. And that's really what I wanted my channel to be about. Just conversating, just conversating with like-minded people, number one, who love Jesus Christ and who are just working toward being all that we desire to be and all that God desires us to be in Him. Of course, my channel is targeted to women, but I invite the men to tune in too. You can take some of this wisdom and apply it to the women that you may encounter in your life or in your daily walk. So, like I said, I wanted to be authentic to who I am. And I was like, I'm not going to do a video about domestic violence, but I am. I want to tell you about my experience with um, domestic violence. Now, I was not married to this individual. It happened in my early 20s, and it was a boyfriend that I had gotten involved with after I had my son. I was feeling very low, very down, because here I had this newborn baby and his father and I weren't together. And that's a whole nother story that I'm not going to get into right now, but I just want to focus on my experience with domestic violence. So as I said, at the time, I had already known this person, and at the time we reconnected. This was before Facebook. It was actually kind of before cell phones, which is crazy because that's telling you my age. But so, I had gotten out of a relationship. Well, basically, it wasn't me getting out of a relationship. I got dumped by my son's father. He wasn't ready to be a father. We were both young. We were in our 20s. He just wasn't ready, and he moved on, and I was left to raise a child by myself. And I had reconnected with someone that I had known. And it felt good to have someone shower me with so much attention, always wanting to be with me, always wanting to know where I was. And that's how it was for like this first 6 months. We were like always together. I wasn't living at home with my parents, so I had, my own spot. And, he was staying over every night. And before you know it, it was like we were living together. But as I would say about 6 months in, I had my first experience with, I was at my friend's house and her parents were away in Trinidad. And, that was the house where, we would be hanging out, partying and stuff. And I remember, I don't know if he wasn't aware that I was going to be there or he was upset that I was there, but he literally came into the house, dragged me out of the house, and proceeded to just fling me around like a rag doll. And nobody helped. It was just like I was just being thrown around like a rag doll. I mean, I don't even remember. It was so long ago, but what I do remember is nobody helped. And I'm not blaming those people because we were all young. I don't know why nobody helped. I can't say that if I was on the other side that I would have helped. I'm just telling you what happened. Nobody helped. So, we had that incident where he physically was throwing me around, and I think he was jealous or upset that I was there, and he knew it was going to be some type of partying going there, but I wasn't there for a guy. I was just there hanging out with my friends. And when I went back to my house, I had seen that he had been there and he took all his stuff, and there was a picture of us ripped up on the steps. And I I was like, yo, like I really didn't realize that what happened to me was violence. I just thought we had a fight. And I was in that relationship for about maybe almost 4 years. It was actually the last relationship that I was in before I gave my life to Christ. It was my last relationship that I had been in before I gave my life to Christ. But what I do remember is that wasn't the only incident. Like, he would get jealous if I was going out with my friends and all my friends were sluts and this and that. And, it wasn't, we were just going out. It wasn't really a big deal. To me, it wasn't, but very controlling about who I was with. Just not wanting me to go out. Like, I remember going out to a party with my friends and I look across. It wasn't a club. It was like some type of, I mean, we're talking about in the 89, 90, 91. We're talking about almost 30 years ago. So parties were different back then. But I remember being at a party and looking across the room and he was there standing against the wall. Like, of course, I ended up leaving the party with him. But it was just, we went to another party. I danced with somebody that I knew and he wasn't a dancer. We got in the car. He was upset. I got hit in the nose. I don't know how I got hit in the nose, but my nose was bleeding. It was just not a good relationship. I had a beautiful vanity mirror that I loved that my aunt gave me, and we got into an argument and he took something through it. Glass was all over the place. He basically broke it, so like I said, I didn't realize that I was in a domestic violence relationship. I just thought that we were fighting. Couples fight. One time we were fighting in the apartment, like he isolated me. I had my own spot and then things didn't work out there with the landlord. So I moved in with him, maybe about 30 minutes away from where I was living, and I had no car. So I was isolated. But I remember he was at work one day and I walked to the library and I pulled out a book. Now, like I said, it's a long time ago, but it had to be God who led me to this book. But it was a book about domestic violence, and they give you the bullet points, isolation, accusations, all the stuff that they do that comes along with domestic violence. And when I was reading that, it was like my eyes were like open, like, oh, wow, this is the type of relationship that I was in. Now, if we look from the spiritual aspect, we would break up, get back together, break up, get back together. I did not know it then, but I know now that that was a soul tie that was created because, we all know that when you sleep with someone, when you have sex with someone, a soul tie is created. So that's why I kept going back to him, and, we'd break up for a little while and get back together again, break up for a little while. It's just one of those, when it was good, it was good. And it was bad, it was bad. And I realized that being so young and, having a child and being left as a single mom with someone that you thought you knew and you thought you were going to be together and you ended up not being together, I was afraid of being alone because there was a lie. Okay, I'm going to tackle this. There was a lie that I heard in my family that was playing over my head. And that lie was, and I don't know who said it, where it came from, but I know it was a circulating lie that was in my family that no man wants a ready-made family. And I was thinking in my immaturity, well, nobody wants a ready-made family, but he's willing to take me and my son, so I guess I better stick with him because nobody wants a ready-made family. That is a lie from the pit of hell. So if you've heard that, that is so far from the truth. When I married my husband, I had a 5-year-old son, and he said, not me, he said that he knew that I was the one because he had dated women that had children and he never seen their children. never seen them. It was like, now I'm not saying that you introduce your children to every man that you're dating, but it was just the fact that you're leaving your kids to come hang out with me. How are you going to be a good wife and mother to me and mine? So I brought my son everywhere when I met my husband, because I was, first of all, I was newly saved. I wasn't hanging out. I wasn't partying. I wasn't getting high. There was no need for my son not to be with me, because what I was doing, he could partake in. So that's how he said he knew I was the one. So here I am thinking like, oh my God, I got my kid with me. But that is what drew him to me, because he's seen the care and love that I had for my son. And he felt that that was a good quality that he wanted in a woman and a wife to be. And, next month we're celebrating 24 years of marriage. So don't let other people put their expectations or their thoughts on you. And that's what happened. Now, I'm not saying that that was purposely done. All I'm telling you is that that's what I heard in my family. No man wants a ready-made family. So hence me thinking, well, at least he takes me and my son and blah, 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 blah. But back to me being in the library, reading that and realizing that that was the type of relationship that I was in. And during that time, that was when Nicole Simpson had gotten killed. And everybody knows the OJ and Nicole Simpson story. You could be on both sides of the fence. Some people say he didn't do it. Some people say he did do it. Me personally, I believe that he did it. And, it was a terrible relationship of domestic violence and control that ended up in murder. But back then, that's what was happening. And I was very like, it dawned on me like, that could be me. Like, he was somebody that had a weapon in the home, and, he had been violent. And, he said to me, if you ever try to leave me, they'll find you in the closet with a bottle stuck up your rectum. But he didn't say rectum. So, they plant these thoughts in your head. And I don't even know if he knew what he was doing. You're young. You don't know how to process your feelings. Maybe that's what he grew up seeing. But a lot of young people in high school and in college are experiencing domestic violence, and they're not aware that that's what it is. They think, you get thrown against the lockers at school. Your boyfriend's mad. He lost the football game. Oh, he's just mad. That is violence. That is a relationship that you need to run from. So in our breaking up and getting back together again, there was one particular time that I had went to church, and back then they had prayer lines. You stand in the prayer line, and if there's 20 people in the prayer line, you stand in the prayer line. So my family owned a church. Well, they built a church. My grandmother was the pastor. Everybody in the church was my relatives. And this one particular Sunday, my mother had prayed for me, and she said, stop going back. And I really believe that that was the Holy Spirit using her to speak to me. And we have to be, we got to know when God is speaking, because I could have took that like, that's my mother. She don't know what she's talking about. But you know what? You know how I knew it was the Lord? Because I had never told anybody what I was going through. I'd never told anybody in my family what I was going through. Yes, my crew knew what was happening, because, everybody was fighting with their boyfriend back then. It's like that was just the norm. It was the norm that you get into fights with your boyfriend and it gets physical. But we need to educate our young women so they know from the minute they start dating, control, jealousy, wanting to change you, telling you how to dress, telling you where to hang out, telling you where you can go. That is a no-no. So if it's like that, we need to tell young girls, run away. But there was nobody there that was like, look, this is not what it is. He's violent. You're experiencing interpersonal violence with your boyfriend. Nobody told me that. So it was like, my one friend was getting smacked around by her boyfriend. I was getting smacked around. So it was like, it was just so, now it's mind-boggling to me that nobody knew that that's what was going on. So back to me being in the prayer line. My mother told me to stop going back, and I knew that that was the Lord speaking through her. And I had stayed apart. Now I know it's called no contact. We had broken up for 6 months consecutive, 6 straight months. And that was a long time for us because usually we'd be apart maybe a month or two, and then he'd call or throw a rock at my window or something. And, we back in the bed and everything's back, and it's just a cycle. And I remember that he had knocked on my apartment door, and I was there with my friend and her boyfriend. And like when I seen him, I kind of got scared because I'm like, what does he want? And, I was thinking, does he have a knife behind his back? Is he going to stab me? What does he want? But he had some lame excuse for stopping by. And I was just like, I kind of cut it short, and he left and went about his business. But one night, he did the Hoover, which I know that now that's a Hoover. He did the Hoover, and, we just fell right back into the same pattern. I miss you. We sleep together. But that night, I guess I was too used to being free, like not being hassled about how long I'm at the grocery store and not being hassled about what time I'm coming home from work. It was just like I had 6 months of like, and then I was like, I ain't really trying to go back into this. So, we did what we did, but, brother thought that he was laying it all out. And I was like, yeah, you might have laid it on out, but, that in my head, I'm like, nah, it's just not the same. Now, was that stupid? Of course it's stupid. You're giving somebody access to your body and you don't know where they've been. You don't know what they've been doing. Of course that was foolish. Foolish. But thank God, God protected me. And after that night, it was just like, I could tell that he thought we was going to just pick back up, like we used to over the past 4 years, just get back into the groove. But I was like, nah, I'm good. And you know what? And I really believe that if I wouldn't have had that 6-month separation period, that I could have ended right back up into a cycle. And I, like I said, I was in my 20s. And now this whole concept of ride or die irks me. I hate when I hear people say, oh, I'm a ride or die. No, I'm not riding and I'm not dying. Where are we going and what are we doing and why I got to die? I'm about living and loving. But my immature mind was like, you put me through so much. I want an engagement ring. I've been through all this crap with you. I deserve a ring. Now, do that make sense? So I ain't married to him, and he put me through all this stuff. And now I want a ring. I want to sign up for this for the rest of my life. So what did he do? He got me a promise ring. Now, when you're in your 20s, okay, a promise ring is appropriate, Now, if you're in your 40s and 30s and you getting a promise ring, girl, bye. So he gave me a promise ring because I felt like I deserved something for putting up with all your crap all these years. I want something. And thank God we didn't get engaged for real. Promise rings are not engagements. We didn't get married. I didn't have any kids. That 6-month separation was just the doorway of God working me out of that relationship. And boom, I ended up giving my life to Christ and not looking back and looking forward. And God brought me my husband 6 months after I got saved. And we've been living and loving ever since. God knows what we need. I mean, my husband doesn't even raise his voice. If anything, I was the one out of order when we first got married because I was so used to all that drama. He was like, yo, chill. We don't do that. You don't touch me. I don't touch you. He established that early because I was poking him in his chest and punching. Hey, slow your roll. We don't do that. We don't hit. You don't hit me. I don't hit you. We ain't doing that. So that is my story about my experience with that type of relationship. And I really do believe the reason why I got into that relationship was because I was broken from the relationship with my son's father that did not work out. And I did not want to be a single mother. I did not want to have that stigma. My family was a family of pastors and ministers. You know how many people my grandmother married in her living room? My mother said, y'all getting married, you gonna wear my dress, you gonna do this, all you got to do is show up. And he was like, nah, I'm not doing that. And thank God he said no. Because where could my life have ended up? That was the best no I ever heard. And I thank him for saying no, because God knows the type of person that we need in our life, and he knows the direction he's taking our life in. So he knows the type of spouse that we need to be with for the upbuilding of his kingdom. So I do have a passion for young women, because I was that young woman. I was that woman. I was that young woman in my 20s that was just low self-esteem, pushing a baby carriage, no car. My son's father was from Queens, so it was like I was in Long Island. I didn't see him. It was just a bad time. And that's how he was able to come in. And plus, I had known him already, so it wasn't like he was a total stranger. I knew him before. So he came in and swooped in, and then that was all she wrote. So it was about 3.5, 4 years of that type of relationship. But I thank God for deliverance. I ended up getting, many years ago, I did, I was on a domestic violence crisis line, and I volunteered for a few years. The women would call, we would give them resources. Now, this is before the internet. I had a big old binder, and if they were calling from Kansas, I'd flip to Kansas, and I'd, give them like numbers to shelters or lawyers or resources. So this is going back, this is before, the internet age and everybody had computers at their fingertips. So, I did that for a while because I felt like I wanted to give back, and I felt like I just was so thankful that God didn't give me what I wanted. God didn't give me what I wanted, and I'm so thankful that he didn't. Some prayers that God don't answer are a blessing. Trust and believe. So that is my experience with domestic violence, or being with somebody who was physically abusive to me. And I just pray that if you are in that type of relationship, that you will begin to see that that's not what God has for you. God has so much more for you. He loves you. So why would he send somebody into your life to beat on you, put you down, call you names, make you feel bad about yourself? That's not God. That's not a loving relationship. So thank you for tuning in. This is Mending Mahogany, and it's a Friday night, y'all. I don't usually come on Fridays, but like I said, I really felt like I wanted to be authentic to who I am and be honest, to be honest about, things that I have experienced. The Lord has allowed me to live 51 years, and I'm glad about it, because if the enemy had it his way, I could have been found in the closet with a bottle in my rectum, but God said not so. I have plans for you, Stephanie. I have a good life for you. I have someone out there that will treat you the way you deserve to be treated. So once again, thanks for tuning in. This is Mending Mahogany. Please like, share, and subscribe, and have a nice night.